Enrico Caviglia KCB was a distinguished officer in the Italian army. Victorious on the bloody battlefields of the Great War, he rose in time to the highest rank in his country, Marshal of Italy. He was also a senator of the kingdom. Early years. Caviglia was born in Finalmarina, the sixth son of Pietro Caviglia and Antonietta Sacconi. After early studies in his hometown, in 1877 he gained admission to the military college in Milan. Later on, in 1880 he became a cadet in the military academy of Turin. 3 years later he received his first promotion to second lieutenant in the artillery corps. Caviglia took part in the African campaign of 1888-89 in Eritrea as a first lieutenant in the 2 Artillery Regiment. In 1891 he was admitted to the War School. The year 1893 saw him promoted to captain. 2 years later he was attached to the command of Division Perugia. In 1896 and 1897 he took part anew in the African campaign and was present when the Italian army suffered a dreadful defeat in the Battle of Adwa, in Ethiopia. By this time, he was known especially for the quality of his works in matters of geography. After several other assignments, in 1904 he was appointed as extraordinary military attaché in Tokyo, Japan, where he was tasked with observing Japanese military operations in the Russo-Japanese War. From 1905 to 1911, he became the titular military attaché first in the Japanese capital, then in Beijing, China. On the 22nd of September 1908 he was awarded the rank of Lieutenant Colonel and honorary field assistant to the King. In 1912 Caviglia was sent to Tripolitania and Cyrenaica. His task was to overview both the negotiations for the pullout of the Turkish troops and the pacification of Arab and Berber chieftains. On the 6th of February 1913 he was appointed Vice-Director of the Military Geographic Institute in Florence, to reach the rank of colonel the next year. World War I. When in 1915 Italy entered the First World War against Austria-Hungary, Caviglia was made Major General. Next year his troops distinguished themselves in the bloody battles of the Carso, where Caviglia led Brigade Barry in extremely harsh fights at Bosco Lancia and Bosco Cappuccio, hence his being decorated with the Cross of Cavalier of the Military Order of Savoy for the skill and valor he exhibited. On the 14th of June 1917 Caviglia was promoted to Lieutenant General for his merits on the battlefield. In August, as commanding officer of 24th Army Corps, he overran the Austro-Hungarians on the Bainsa Plateau, the most brilliant Italian advance in the 11th Battle of the Isonzo. After the disastrous 12th Battle of the Isonzo, in which he had no responsibility for the defeat, Caviglia received the Silver Medal for his skill in keeping his men united and disciplined throughout the retreat to the Piave line, contrary to what happened in large sectors of the Italian army. He was also transferred to serve as commander of 10th Army Corps. September 1918 saw Caviglia being made a titular commander of Army Corps by war merits, and by November he had been put in charge of the new 8th Army, which decisively crushed the crumbling Austro-Hungarian forces at the Battle of Vittorio Veneto. Between the wars. After the war, King George V of Great Britain awarded him the rank of Knight Commander in the Order of the Bath. Enrico Caviglia was now a Sir. On the 22nd of February 1919 he was appointed Senator for life, and later took part in Vittorio Emanuele Orlando's first government as Minister of War. When Gabriele D'Annunzio occupied Fiume with his legionnaires, Caviglia was called to replace General Pietro Badoglio. dating from the 21st of December 1920, as Troop Commander and Extraordinary Commissioner in the Venezia Giulia. From 24 to the 31st of December 1920 he led the repression of D'Annunzio's movement, the so-called Natale di Sang, in execution of the Treaty of Rapallo. This act was to charge Caviglia with grievous doubts at the end of his life, doubts he expressed in his personal diary. On the 25th of June 1926, Enrico Caviglia was appointed Marshal of Italy. This was the highest military rank in the Kingdom of Italy. 4 years later, he was made a Cavalier in the Supreme Order of the Most Holy Annunciation. Caviglia thus became a cousin of King Victor Emmanuel III. Opposed to Benito Mussolini's policies and regime, he was overshadowed by other officers, less able on the battlefields but more prone to power and ideology. World War II. In 1943, from 8 to the 13th of September, as the King's Court fled the incoming Germans after surrendering the country to the Allies, the aged Caviglia had to take the military command in Rome and to negotiate with Field Marshal Albert Kesselring the surrender of the capital in exchange for the respect of its theoretical status as open city. By this time he had developed an intense dislike of Badoglio, who had left him in dire straits thrice, in Caporetto, in Fiume and then finally in Rome, benefiting in the meantime of the favors of the fascist regime. Caviglia eventually retired to his villa, named Villa Vittorio Veneto, in Finale Ligure, to die just a month before the end of World War II. His body was interred in the Basilica of St. John the Baptist in Finale Ligure Marina, but on the 22nd of June 1952, under the eyes of Luigi Einaudi, President of the Italian Republic, and former Prime Minister Vittorio Emanuele Orlando, his remains were finally reinterred in the Tower of Capo San Donato, just east of Finale. Caviglia left a diary which documents the evolution of his thought on many subjects, his skepticism about the fascist regime, as well as his confusion about what was going on in World War II, a world he could not recognize anymore. Plus he left military memoirs and geographical treatises and works. Honors: Supreme Knight of the Order of the Most Holy Annunciation, Knight Grand Cross of the Military Order of Savoy, Knight Commander of the Order of the Bath.